Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we're going to make one of my favorite all-time Chinese dishes. It is Chinese barbecued pork egg foo young. And it's actually very, very easy to make. But the first thing you have to do is make the Chinese barbecued pork. Now you can leave that out completely and this egg foo young will still be great. You can also make it with shrimp or chicken or any other meat that you prefer. But I do find that this Chinese barbecued pork version is very good. So in the first section of this video, I'm going to show you how to make the Chinese barbecued pork in advance. And then in the second part, I'm going to show you how to make the egg foo young and the delicious brown sauce that goes with it. So come on, let's cook. And here are the ingredients for our Chinese barbecue pork. We have 2.5 to 3 pounds of pork loin rib chops, and you might be able to find another pork that you can use for this, at one of your local stores, but you're looking for something that has that kind of pork choppy consistency, and the thickness helps too because we're going to cut this into strips, and they have to stand up to some grilling. We're also going to use a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of 5-spice Chinese powder, 3 tablespoons of sweet rice cooking wine, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of honey, 4 cloves of garlic, which we're going to crush or you can finely mince, 1 inch of fresh ginger, which we're either going to really, really finely mince, or you can even grate that if you want, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And that's going to be our marinade, and it makes this absolutely delicious sauce. So let me show you how to put this together. So I put the pork in the fridge so it stays nice and chilled while we prepare the marinade. So first of all, we want to add our 1/2 cup of light brown sugar into this bowl. There we go. And this is not a really lumpy sugar, so I'm not worried about it balling up into these really crispy pieces. Next we have our 2 teaspoons of salt. There we go. We have our 1 teaspoon of 5-spice Chinese powder. Here come our 3 tablespoons of sweet rice cooking wine. Our 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, our 2 tablespoons of honey, this already smells quite delicious, by the way. It smells exactly like the great Chinese ribs that you'll get in a good Chinese restaurant. It smells just like that sauce. And we still have a lot of ingredients to add. Honey's kind of sticky, of course. Now let's crush or mince our garlic cloves, in this case I'm crushing them, into the mix. You can also just finely mince it, that's fine by me. And then we'll prepare our ginger. And this is kind of a thick piece of ginger, but I actually like ginger. So a little extra is not going to hurt me. So I'm just taking off the ginger skin. And then I'm just cutting off the dry little end that was there. Now, if you have a tiny grater, you can grate an inch off of this. And, you know, the graters with the little holes, and that's fine. With this, I don't mind it having a little bit of a presence, so I just like to cut it like this. And then we'll mince it. So I'm cutting it very, very thin. Just even beyond paper thin, almost. I'm not sure that's quite possible. But this is just magnificent. I wish you could smell this aroma already. And this is a sauce that you can use on the pork, but you can also use it on chicken, a marinade on chicken. I mean, heck, you could probably use it on salmon and it would taste good. It's just it's kind of a little bit more viscous and viscous and complex than a teriyaki sauce, but it is yummy. And I think after you try it on the pork, you're going to start thinking, boy, what else can I put this on? And like I said, even pork ribs, this would taste good on. So now I'm just giving it a mince. Ginger is just so delicious. What a magnificent gift from nature ginger is. Oh, is it good. And then you just turn it. Oops, just had my crusher in the way. Just turn it and just keep on giving little minces. And, you know, finding a little piece of ginger in your Chinese food, in this barbecue sauce, it's actually kind of a rewarding surprise. It just has a certain zing to it. And if you can't get fresh ginger, you can use some powdered ginger. And I would just add, powdered ginger is pretty potent. I would just add a 1/4 teaspoon. And then give the sauce a little taste and see if you can taste the ginger in it. And if you can't, then just add a little bit more. But don't go overboard because, again, it's pretty potent and you don't want it to really take over this barbecue sauce. Just putting that right into the bowl. Yum. And the last thing I'm going to add is our teaspoon of onion powder. And use onion powder, not onion salt, because we already added salt to this and soy sauce. So if you add onion salt, it's just gonna become way too salty. And then we'll just stir all of this in. And you can see it's a nice, thick sauce. Wow, look at that. And you know, you can even take another clean spoon and give it a little bit of a taste. And then you can decide, does it need something else? Is there something you'd like to add more of to your taste? This is being made to my taste. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. That is rich and superb. And now, what we're going to do is use this as a marinade. Ideally, you made the marinade a night ahead of when you're going to cook it, and the pork can just soak in it overnight. If you don't have that kind of time, or you're getting started a little bit late on this recipe, then 3 to 4 hours of marinating is fine too, because you're going to have some extra sauce that you can throw back onto the pork in the process that will just add plenty of flavor. Plus, we're slicing the pork too, so it's going to get all over the pork. So that is one tasty sauce. So now I'm going to get the pork and we're going to slice that, pour this on it, put it into a container, and start the marination process. And here's our pork. And what we're going to do, and you can see this is very thick, is we're going to cut it into inch-thick slices. Just like this. And the reason I'm cutting it big like this is that I don't want it to fall through the grates on my grill. And I want it to get nice and grilled through. Now, this is very similar to the, I have to trim off a little fat, you can see. Very similar to the pork that you'd get in a Chinese restaurant. And the main thing that's missing is red food coloring. Some people will use a red food coloring in this just to make it look more like the restaurants that they're used to. And I guess if you have a purist in your family, you might want to get some red food coloring and just add some until it gets a redder color to it. But honestly, I think we should all be beyond that whole food coloring thing, because the food itself will present just fine grilled. Trust me after you see it. And it just tastes delicious. So I don't think really the dye, I mean, it doesn't do anything for me. But if you really feel strongly about that, you can, yes, add red food coloring. And I'm just giving this a very light trim because the grill will take care of some of this fat too. So again, nice 1-inch thick strips. That marinade is really going to soak into this. And with this barbecued pork, the other point I want to make is I'm going to grill it. I'm going to show you tomorrow how I grill it. Some people will make it right in the oven. If you don't have a grill, you can still make this dish. And I'll explain it in the written recipe how to grill it. And the written recipe will be on stepbystepchef.com. And eventually, if not already, in a version of my cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. So there's our meat all chopped up. Let's just pour our barbecue sauce, our Chinese barbecue sauce marinade right on there. Wow, that is just delicious. That aroma. I want to make another bowl of it and just sit and drink it, but I know that won't end well. So here we go. Just stir it in. Make sure all of the pork is covered. And then whenever you think of it, like this is going to be my refrigerator overnight, and I'm not going to grill it until tomorrow afternoon. So whenever I'm thinking about it, whenever I'm looking in the fridge, just give it a quick stir. Okay, so that's heading into the fridge, and I'll see you tomorrow. And here's the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to take a look at our Chinese barbecued pork, which has been marinating overnight. So let's see what we have. And I have turned this occasionally. Oh boy, yeah. Look at that. The marinade worked right into it. The pieces practically look like they're crispy with it. So what we're going to do is take these slices out to the grill. And I'm also putting on stepbystepchef.com with this recipe the way you can prepare it in your oven. But since I do have a barbecue handy, and it is a barbecue kind of afternoon, I'm going to run this out there and bring you along, and let's go do some barbecuing. Okay, so here we are. We're outdoors, we're out at the grill, and this is a community grill. So when you see how kind of dirty it is inside, please don't write to me and say, "Dear Step by Step, clean that grill, dude. I just did the best I could." But what we have out here with us is we have our pork. We have a spoon to put some of that sauce onto the pork as it grills, and I have a spatula and a mitt in case things get out of control. I also have a clean plate under there that we're going to put the meat on after it cooks. Never put the meat back on the dirty plate that you just used. And here we have our grill, and it is preheated at 400 degrees. So it's ready. It's ready for me to put the meat inside. Now these pieces are really thin, so it's not going to take me that long to grill these. And again, you can see how well these have marinated. Just perfect. This is going to be some Chinese barbecue pork. And I didn't show you how to operate the grill because honestly, every type of grill is a little bit different. The manufacturer instructions are different, and that's what you need to read to safely operate your grill. And make sure to read that too. Read the operating instructions. You don't want to get hurt using a grill. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they'll turn the gas on, they'll close the lid, and then they'll try to light it. And when they try to light it, boom. You know, all the gas builds up and it'll just go boom. So there's our meat all lined up, and we're going to close the cover. And I'm going to close it for 5 minutes and then flip the pork. So here we are 5 minutes later, and the grill is really rocking. So you can see the meat's browning nicely. Perfect. Look at that color. That is grilled meat. And like I said before, this is not going to take long because we're up around 400, 500 degrees now, and these are very thin slices. I'm going to put the pieces close together. And then let's spoon some of our marinade on them. And then what I'm going to do is just flip them over briefly one more time after the next 5 minutes. This is almost like caramelized barbecue sauce. It's just going to be so delicious. And again, if you want to color it red, we talked about that last night. If you want to color it red, go ahead. But honestly, I think we can get over that it's not red. The flavor is magnificent. And wait till you see what I'm going to put these, what I'm going to put this pork into. This isn't just meat that we're going to eat on its own. We're going to put it in some recipes. And you will find those recipes on stepbystepchef.com. And 5 minutes later, let's go check on our barbecued Chinese pork. So here we go. Let's see, the grill is up at just over 450. Oh, those pieces are looking so good. And now, like I told you before, I just want to give it a quick flip, just to caramelize the last of the marinade that I put on it. The barbecue sauce. Quick flip, gonna close it for a minute, and then it's done. And I just want to point something out. This end of the grill is a little hotter, so I may have to cook the ones at this end for just another minute or two after I close the hood. So I think I'm actually going to take these out right now. So we have to be a little flexible when we're cooking this. So I have my clean plate all at the ready. Again, never put the stuff that you cook back on the plate that you brought it out in. Very unhygienic, and if you get caught doing it, you're going to tick off a lot of people. Actually going to take these pieces and move them down to this hotter end. And now we'll just close the cover for a couple of minutes. And 2 minutes later, let's take a look. That pork is what they call done. So let's scoop it off there. Now, if you're doubtful at all whether or not the pork is grilled through all the way, take a piece of it and just cut it in half. You shouldn't see any pink meat at all. This pork is done. Let's take it on inside. So in the first part of this video, I did show you how to make our delicious Chinese barbecued pork. And here some is. And we're going to use about a cup and a half of it, and we're going to cube this, cut it into little cubes. But man, you know, I really had to fight the urge to just grab that, heat it up, and go sit on the couch and eat it instead of making this video. Hey, but here we are. Wow, is that delicious. Now what we're going to use is 8 eggs, an 8-ounce bag of fresh bean sprouts, 2 celery stalks, 1/3 of a cup of sliced sweet onion, 5 green onions, 1½ cups of the cubed Chinese barbecued pork, 2 crushed garlic cloves, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of sweet rice wine, 6 tablespoons of sesame oil, 3 cups of chicken broth, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, an inch of minced ginger, and 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar. And this is both for the egg foo young itself and for the rich brown and tasty sauce that we're going to have with it. So let me show you how to put this together. And the first thing we're going to do in advance is prepare the ingredients for our brown gravy. So I'm going to take 3 cups of chicken broth, and just put them in this bowl. And now we have our 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and this is the thickener. When we heat it up, this will thicken the sauce. Now we have our 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. There we go. We have our 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar. Gives it a nice sweetness. 1 tablespoon of this sweet rice cooking wine. It already smells delicious. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, which gives it a very good Chinese restaurant taste. And now we're just going to mince our ginger. So just cutting off this part. And ginger, it looks intimidating, but it's actually very easy to work with. So I'm just cutting the skin off of it. And it just, boy, I mean, you should smell it. It's just so delicious and such a unique plant. And it just gives this sauce a complexity that makes it absolutely delicious. Okay, finish that up. And they do come in such odd shapes that it's an art form to give these a quick cleaning. This is very fresh ginger. And if you can't get fresh ginger, then just put a ½ teaspoon of dried ginger powder into it, and that'll give you a good taste. But this fresh ginger is very unique. And I really think it contributes to making this a very memorable dish. So I'm just cutting this extremely thin. And if you have a grater that you want to use with this, use the grater. I don't mind mincing it because getting the little pieces of ginger in a forkful is quite tasty. And then we're just going to mince this up. It's like a little mini flavor explosion when you run into something like this. Okay, there we go. Now I'm just putting this in. And what we're going to do is set the sauce aside while we create the other ingredients for the actual egg foo young. And then what we'll do is we'll start heating up the sauce as we're cooking the foo young. So the sauce will be nice and thick and ready when we're all done. The other thing I've done is I have a pan, a baking pan, sitting ready with some foil on it in my oven preheating at 200 so that each time I make a foo young, I can keep it warm in the oven. So that's always a good idea. I mean, unless you have people sitting there at the ready and they just want to eat them as you make them. Okay, so I'm setting this aside. And for the foo young itself, first we're going to crack the 8 eggs. It would not be egg foo young without the eggs. It would just be foo young. So I'm going to crack the eggs into this bowl. And then let's beat these eggs before we add the other ingredients. Okay, that looks good. And here's our bean sprouts. And these were washed and ready to eat. So there we go. And now I'm just going to take our celery, our 2 celery stalks, cut them up the middle, and then we're just going to slice them thin. And people put all kinds of things in egg foo young. Some people will add some, I've seen carrots and peas and, sometimes they'll throw in some bok choy or some of those different Chinese veggies. So make it to your taste. I'm showing you my basic recipe, and then whatever else you want to do to it, go ahead, add it, throw it in. I mean, there's certainly some things that probably don't go with this. I don't know. I guess you'd probably not want to add spinach to it. I think it would take away its allure, but who knows, People do all kinds of things with these dishes. But do it to your taste. I'm going to show you the basic recipe, and then it's up to you to make it your way. Now we'll do our 1/3 cup of sliced sweet onion. And if you can't get sweet onion, certainly use yellow or white onion. That's just fine. And I'm just cutting this into very little slivers, very thin, fine slivers. That should be our 1/3 cup. And then what I want to do, just so that I don't have onions sticking out of the foo young all over the place, is just give it a quick slice like that. So then slice those slivers in half. And now we have our 5 green onions, and they have been rinsed off already. So just cut this rooty end off. And then just cut it into these little, like 1/4-inch slices. You don't want big chunks of this in the foo young. We'll just put this right in. And the green onion has such a sweet taste. It's just a sweet and green taste. I really think it tastes delicious in Chinese food. Now we're going to chop our barbecued pork. We're going to just cube it into these really little cubes. And again, if you don't want to add any meat at all, this dish would still taste great vegetarian. But this pork is just powerfully delicious. So I'm just making these little cubes. Now what we're going to do is crush our 2 garlic cloves into it. You can also mince these if you want. If you don't have a crusher, just finely mince it and put it in. It just adds a slight complexity to the dish. But I wouldn't go overboard. You certainly don't want garlic foo young. So this is really just a background note. And here comes our 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Our 1 tablespoon of sweet rice wine. And now all we do is we just stir this up. Get it nice and mixed in. You want the egg mixture all mixed into this. I think I'm going to make an executive decision. The bean sprouts were so fresh that they're just holding their shape too much. I'm going to add 2 more eggs to this. This is the first time I've had to adjust a recipe right in the middle because the ingredients are always going to be a little bit different. There we go. Now I can see the egg developing out of it. Okay, now I'll meet you over at the stove. Now here's a saucepan, and I've been preheating this over medium heat for about 3 minutes. And what I recommend is that you take the egg foo young brown sauce and first stir it up, make sure that the cornstarch is well mixed in, and then give it a little bit of a taste and make sure that it's to your liking. If it isn't, you can add, a little bit more of the brown sugar to it if you like a little sweeter. You can add a little bit more of the soy sauce if you like it saltier, but make it to your taste. And what's going to happen in here is it's just going to thicken while we're preparing the egg foo young itself. And give this a stir every now and then. Okay, so I have this small frying pan preheated over medium heat. We're adding our teaspoon of sesame oil. Spreading that across the bottom. There we go, nice and across the bottom of the pan. And now we add our half a cup of egg foo young mix to it. And then we just do this. My stove is a little bit crooked. So I just move it around like that. Then it'll take about 3 minutes for the bottom to brown. And I'm just spreading out the veggies and the pork so it's nice and evenly distributed. And what I'm looking for is for this liquidy egg part on the top to solidify a little bit more so it doesn't just get all messy when I try to flip it. So I want the bottom of this to have a nice browning so that it can support the flipping. So again, this will take about 3 minutes. Let's give it a little feel, see if it's firm enough for flipping. I'm just going to give it about another minute. And there we go, that looks firm enough to flip. So I'm just putting my spatula underneath and try to get it on the entire spatula bottom and then just flip it over. That's nicely browned. And then this other side I'll probably just brown for the 2 to 3 minutes, and then it will come out perfectly browned the way we like it. Because you do want the veggies to cook. You want the bean sprouts and the onions and everything to get a little bit of a saute going. They should still have some crispness to them, but you do want a little bit of a saute. And then what we'll do is we'll put this on a plate, add some of our delicious egg foo young sauce to it, and it's ready to serve. And then we just repeat this over and over. And I have to tell you the truth, it takes a little practice to flip these, so don't get discouraged in any way if the first time you do this you get some odd-shaped egg foo youngs or the flipping just doesn't quite work. But the trick to the flipping is to make sure that the egg is pretty firm and there's not a lot of liquid on top, and then when you dig your spatula underneath, it can slip right between the egg foo young and the pan. And that's the secret to it. It has to be a little bit firm to get that done. So let's take a look. 2 minutes later. Perfect. This one's ready to serve. So congratulations, look at what you just did. You just made this delicious egg foo young with foo young sauce. It's absolutely superb. It'll taste fresher and should taste more delicious than any egg foo young you've ever had before. It's absolutely worth the effort, but it does take a little bit of a learning curve to make this. And really, probably the hardest part is flipping it. So be patient, give it time. And maybe you're a natural born flipper, but it took me a little bit to get it down. So I really hope you enjoy this dish. I have the recipe, a printable recipe for this on stepbystepchef.com, along with printable recipes and video links for dozens and dozens, in fact over 100 delicious recipes. So I hope you'll check that out too. And while you're there, you're also going to see a link for my book, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. This has my first 114 recipes in it. This means you don't have to print them off the site, and it also means you can give it as a gift to every single person you know. Everyone. Be my hero. Okay, maybe just your aunt. But anyways, my name's Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.